happy Friday. We've been calling this Freedom Friday. And what I am normally doing is the week in review. And I'm still going to do that today. Hot topics that we didn't cover on the other shows this week. First on my list was already covering police misconduct cases, including the Kimberly Potter case. But for those of you who are coming for the first time, here on Make It Make Sense, we meet at noon weekdays, and our pledge to you is that we try to do exactly that. We take hot topics, we take complicated subject matter, issues that are pressing in our community, issues that are pressing to us around the globe as humans, and try to make them make sense. So that means we're dialing down the noise and the rhetoric and the bickering and pledging to bring you, to the best of our ability, the facts, data-driven, truthful. And when it's commentary based on facts and data. We want you to know that you can trust us here, that we're going to bring you the truth and the facts. And I, like the things we're going to talk about today, obviously are in my sweet spot. As a former senior litigator for the Office of the Attorney General for over a decade, as a criminal defense attorney, as a plaintiff's attorney who has sued police departments. I'm confident I got this, but I'm still going to phone a friend because the cases that we are discussing today, my friend and colleague Ben Crump is of counsel for the family on the cases, and I did talk to him right before the verdict. And as soon as they are done with the press conference with the family, or while he's on his way to the press conference with the family, he's going to come on and go live with me. So if I get through everything and he doesn't get to us, I will go back live when he's ready. Or if he comes on while I'm on here, we will stop and talk to him. Okay. So we just, many of you watched on the news that the sentencing of Kim Potter was just brought down by the judge. Kim Potter was found guilty of the manslaughter of the killing of Daunte Wright. If you will recall, this is the case in which Daunte Wright was stopped and they skirmish ensued in the vehicle, and in an attempt to, according to the officers, to prevent him from driving forward in the vehicle, Officer Potter pulled her gun when she said she meant to be pulling her taser. She shot once and killed him. And so what I spent the morning watching was victim impact statements. Victim impact statements. We heard from Daunte's mother. We heard from his father. We heard from his sisters. And those are things that the judge is supposed to consider when rendering a decision on sentencing. Okay? And we also heard from people on the side of the defendant, Ms. Potter. And then we heard from Ms. Potter herself, and similar to what happened when she was on the stand. The judge in this case could have given an enhancement over the normal sentencing guidelines, or could have given a decision under the recommendations, the sentencing recommendations and guidelines. And as she said, they are just a guide. And what she decided is that what the state had already withdrawn was their claims of enhancement in order to require it to go over the amount of the sentencing guidelines. And so she took the time to explain that she did not believe that this would serve rehabilitative efforts, that she did not believe that this would be necessary in order to keep Ms. Potter off of the streets. she dismissed the enhancement claims that the prosecution had already let go of, saying that they were not appropriate in this case. And then she took great pains to explain the fact that Ms. Potter, formerly Officer Potter, had been an exemplary officer on the force and an exemplary citizen in the community for 26 years prior to the time of the day of the fateful killing of Dante Wright. And then she gave a sentence of 24 months to Ms. Potter of 2 years, 2/3 of which she has to serve in prison, and then the remainder of which, if she does not get in trouble while she is in prison, the remainder of which she will serve at home on probation. So many of you are asking, so I'll go ahead and deal with it now. The family, obviously, of Dante Wright, as they gave their presentations, were crying. The defendant was crying when she gave her presentation. And then here comes the judge. It seemed like, the judge is up there crying. She said this is one of the hardest cases that she's had to deal with. People I'm reading, you're asking me if I've ever had a judge to cry on the stand. No, never. Never have I had a judge from the bench crying while delivering a ruling, because hard decisions are part of the job. And that doesn't mean that I don't understand it, though. It doesn't. It doesn't mean that I don't understand it in a case like this, where from the perspective of the judge, everyone lost. That is the way that the judge, who is the arbiter, who is supposed to remain neutral, and then who is supposed to accept the findings of fact of the jury, make determinations of law, and then give a sentence. Now, I want to remind you all that this is the same judge who locked Kim Potter up immediately upon the jury finding that she was guilty. She did not have to do that. Kim Potter could have remained on bond and at home awaiting sentencing, because she wasn't necessarily a flight risk or any of those things. So what that said to me at the time, and I posted about it, was that this judge had already decided that there would be some time served. Because whenever a judge is trying to decide whether there is going to be time served at all, they usually will send a defendant who's just been convicted home, because they don't believe that time incarcerated is going to be necessary, or when it's going to be a really small amount of time, they may allow them to go ahead and go home, because they're never going to see the inside of a prison. She didn't do that. She was bound over, she was cuffed, she was processed, and she's been in jail for the 58 days, I believe it is, since her conviction. One of the things that I think is the obligation of people in my position as a legal analyst, meaning I am taking my experience and I am letting you know what I think the law requires based on these facts. I, frankly, was surprised when the jury found all of the ways that they found, because it's hard to get juries to do that with police officers, especially ones where both the defense and the prosecution have agreed that the action of pulling the gun instead of the taser was an accident. The prosecutors who were pressing the case agreed with that. The defense asserted that. That was not an issue to be determined at trial. They started with that already being decided upon. So the prosecution pressed this case under the theory that even though the actions of Ms. Potter were a horrible, tragic accident, It was an accident of a 26-year veteran that was so reckless that it was criminal. That it is the kind of mistake that an officer who's been in the field for 26 years and who trains other officers should never, ever make. And you know what? The jury agreed. The jury agreed that recklessness was tantamount to manslaughter and convicted. So the judge could have granted the defense motion then to set aside that verdict and to, on the basis of extenuating circumstances, on the basis of accident, on the basis of the way the testimony came in, to set aside that verdict and render a different decision. The judge did not do that. The judge could have, as I said, send her home awaiting sentencing and did not do that. All of those things I think are positive. The judge today said things that I don't think anybody can disagree with based upon the facts that were accepted in the trial. So for those of us who are on here, and I see you, and I'm not giving my personal opinion about this particular point. I see those of you on here who are saying she yelled taser, 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 and then she shot her gun. Yes, she did. And many people believe that it wasn't an accident, that she knew better than to pull her taser, that because they feel different, because they're a different color, because they're on a different side of the body, that it is unlikely that that was mistaken. But those were not the facts of this case that were tried by a jury and then used to make a decision. So if we're looking at what the judge had in front of her as the basis for her decision making on sentencing, we have to accept what the jury accepted. And those are the facts that were present in the trial. So for anybody who's on here right now saying it wasn't an accident, it wasn't an accident, it wasn't an accident, you don't know Kim Potter. You weren't there that day. You didn't see all the extenuating circumstances. You don't know what's going through her mind. You don't know her intent. You don't know her heart. So you cannot say that. What the prosecution had an opportunity to say was that based on the facts and evidence, it was more likely than not that it was not an accident. But do you know what? They would have failed because the burden is not whether it's more likely than not. They would have had to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt, like every other single fact of the case. And they determined before the trial started that they could not. What were they looking at when they said that? They were looking at, yes, the beforehand saying taser, taser, taser. They were looking at her immediate trauma, which cannot be denied. She was surprised by the action that took place. It's on camera. And then what the family takes issue with, she was immediately freaked out, worried about herself. But that's also evidence that she knew she had made a hideous, horrible mistake. I've represented police. I gotta tell you, I know the difference. I know the difference. I have had officers come into my office and curl up in a fetal position in the corner of my office when we're supposed to be doing witness prep. Like I've left to go get water and to go get my co-counsel and come back in, and they've been curled up in a fetal position because of a mistake. I defended, you can look this case up, in a case against Johnny Cochran, Greg Latimer, and against Cochran's firm many years ago. I defended a case of a Howard dental student who was shot in the back by police, and the family sued, and the police officer was off duty, and the dental student was getting a blowjob in an alley, and the officer tried to stop him and get rid of the prostitute, and the dental student tried to take off and headed straight for the officer. and then went in the reverse direction, and the officer shot the car, and the dental student died. And I can't tell you what the offer was in the civil case. All I can tell you is that when we took the case to trial, what they were able to get was significantly like an nth percentile less than that, because the officer in that case did not make a mistake. The officer in that case shot in defense of his own life with a moving car, which is a deadly object coming right at him. That's not this. I've seen officers who have done things wrongfully and have said it was a good shoot. It was a good shoot. And just looked like, I don't know what else you expected me to do. He was coming at me. I thought he had a weapon. I saw him reach for his pocket. I saw him reach for his glove compartment, making up all kinds of crap. It was a good shoot. And I've assessed those officers and said, we've got to settle. Because he's a liar. That was not this case. That was not this case. So whatever we're going to feel and determine about the judge's decision on the 2 years, I needed to be clear that the facts in this case were that this was a mistaken death and a wrongful shooting. But apparently, we were about to have somebody on here who's going to, one, disagree with me, because sometimes we do, and two, is going to give us some right there, while it's happening, information about what is going on with the family. And that's Attorney Benjamin Crump. As soon as somebody sees him join, let me know, and I will tap him in. Y'all know I phone a friend on here. Thank you for joining us, Attorney Crump. I'm very sorry. Very.
You know, it's so disappointing to the family that they would have to listen to the judge kind of tell them how they should feel, talking about we must remember what President Obama said. I mean, it was just aggravating to say, okay, you're not going to give us an equal sentence that we think we deserve based on what has happened in the past right here in this very courthouse. But now you're going to tell us that we got to find it in our hearts to be the bigger person. The one thing I kept saying the whole time, Monique Pressley, is when does black people get that type of consideration that white policewoman got? We sorry, we didn't mean it. And they say, okay, think about it the next decade of your life. The black police officer, because this is the one time, Monique, where you do got apples to apples.
I can't hear you. You went on mute. Either you're on mute or you muted me. We can't hear you. There you go.
I'm sorry. The family was calling me, but it really, I apologize. As much as I can, then I got to jump off. But I will tell you this, it is apples to apples when you think about the black police officer who was convicted of a lesser charge than this white police woman. And they did an upward departure when the black police officer shot the white woman. And so it was so outrageous for them to think that it's different now that a white woman has shot a black man using the same exact statements or excuses or whatever you want to call them, that, hey, it was because I felt fear for my fellow officers' safety. So I was trying to protect them. And remember, this with Kim Powder was a traffic stop. Some would even say a pretextual traffic stop. With Officer Muhammad Noor, the black police officer, They were called to the scene because they said somebody they believe had a gun and was assaulting somebody else. So that's the knowledge he came to the scene with and tried to save his officer when the white woman ran up to the car with something in her hand. And so they said him doing exactly what she did is worthy of an upward departure. He cried. He said, I was sorry. People in his family said he didn't mean it, but it felt years. And now, you know, we have to look at his family and say, this system is supposed to be equal when they have saw in reality, not the rhetoric of liberty and justice for all, not this rhetoric of equal justice under the law, but they saw in reality.
But Ben, I talked to you. I mean, had you prepped them because I know you expected this?
Yeah, I did because I told them that, you know, y'all do understand there's two justice systems in America, one for Black America, one for white America. And you know, Dante's biracial. His mother said something deep. She said, obviously, white women tears trumps any justice for any person of color.
But Ben, so, and I wanted to ask that question because, you know, here we try to make it make sense. And I told people before you joined, I'm coming to them trying to stay as a legal analyst and stay out my feelings because I knew that you would come and you would represent and give us the emotion of the family. So I'm trying to give them the law. But on this point, both sides agreed before the trial started that it was an accident, right?
Yeah, it was
I mean,
manslaughter. That's what they said. Manslaughter.
okay. Well, no,
You know,
I'm saying the prosecutor and the defense agreed that her actions were accidental, and the reason it was manslaughter is because it was reckless,
exactly.
not
Exactly.
because it was intentional.
Exactly.
And so, and I'm thinking that played into the judge's determination that she just was not willing, even with the jury finding, to not acknowledge the remorse. But I think you make an interesting point that when Black men are remorseful and are law enforcement, it goes one way. When white women are remorseful and it's an accident, it goes another way. The same as we see it in other parts of the justice system. People on here are asking, what can we do? I mean, it's a hard day to give an answer to that, but do you have one?
Well, you know, the biggest thing right now is we have the civil action going. People need to flood, if they can, the website for Brooklyn Center, Minneapolis. They need to call the mayor and the city attorney. And the mayor is a young African American man. And we need to tell him that they need to do right by this family at this point because obviously there was a different measure of justice issued by that judge today. I mean, Monique, I know you were doing your live, but when you go and really sit down and listen to her pronounce the sentence, you kind of forget who the victim here.
Oh no, I heard her. I heard her. By the time she got to the Obama quote, I was laid out. I didn't. And that's what I said. I'm trying to give like a legal perspective on this because I really felt like she was trying to preempt. And as you said, they always are demanding us to have forgiveness. They're demanding us to understand. At the point that she said that they should put themselves, people should try who disagree should try to put themselves in the shoes of the defendant. I have never heard a judge ask a grieving family or the American public to put ourselves in the feet of the defendant who is convicted, a convicted killer. No.
It's just two justice systems in America, one for Black America and one for white America.
Well, Ben, I know I don't have you long, so I'm going to try to get two more things in. Zakai Hussein.
Yeah.
Zakai, am I saying it right?
Yeah, you're saying it correctly. And Monique, you know, I think about that and I think about this. There's always a presumption that Black people are guilty and the presumption that white people are innocent. I mean, we just saw it play out in the courtroom here in Minneapolis, and now we see it play out in a mall where, in a split second decision, the police officers made a determination that, hey, The young black man is guilty. The young white man who's on top of the young black man is innocent. Let's pick him up and have him have a seat while we handle what we have concluded is a menace to society. And they put the black boy face down, knee in the back, and start handcuffing him. And the white kid is just watching this black guy be humiliated, this black kid. And then it's so troubling. At the end of that video, the white kid put his hands up saying, I'm assuming I'm getting arrested too. And the white policewoman pats him on the shoulder. And Zakai and his friends they said, you're free to go. And the black kid goes in handcuffs to the detention. Help but think the reason we can't let this be swept under the rug, Monique Pressley, because you know oh too well that children, and remember, the police officers
Absolutely, y'all.
knew that everybody has cell phones. People knew they had cell phones with video cameras, and this is how they acted. Imagine when there are no cell phones out there and our little black children are encountering the police.
Well, Ben, before you even took the case, when I texted you, I said, please take it and let them have it. Because if there's ever an example of racial bias in policing, we watch that play out in real time. That is improper training. That is lack of sensitivity. That is humiliation. And he's a minor. So I hope you give it to him with both barrels. And I will be right there. Let them have it.
I'm gonna need you, Monique. We're gonna need your legal acumen because you've been on both sides and you understand it uniquely what police officers were supposed to do in that situation and how this is completely the opposite of what they were supposed to do in that situation. And I'm gonna have to run unless you got one last thing. Amir Locke.
One more. Amir Locke. Where are we? I know that he was laid to rest. We're praying for his family. Where do things stand with that case?
Well, right now they are quote unquote still investigating. We have to keep the pressure on. The Congressman Ohan here in Minneapolis put forth the Amir Locke law to ban no-knock warrants being issued at night, and then also to make it where you have to have your top law enforcement personnel, whether it's the chief or the sheriff, sign off on all of them. So they can't say, oh, it fell beneath the cracks. We want an outright ban, but they don't think they can get the Republicans to agree to it. And since the Senate is 50-50, that's the perspective they pushing. But we have to have no-knock warrants in the middle of the night when it's most dangerous. And they only serve them against black people, Monique. They don't do this to white people.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Attorney Crump. Thank you for just in the middle of everything coming just straight to us. I appreciate it. You've definitely helped us to make it make sense.
I love you, Monique. I'm running. Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Silky said hey, too. Okay.
Hey, Silky Slim. Okay. Bye, y'all. Okay, guys. So this is where we are. This is where we are. And as I promise you, any information that I have, the best information I can give you is what I'm going to bring, where we try to make it make sense. All of those cases that I intended to talk to you about today under police misconduct, the Kim Potter case, which has just had the sentencing, the Amir Locke case, which we just got an update on from Attorney Crump, that we're trying to get a ban on no-knock warrants. So be calling your Congress people, your senators, and let them know how you feel about that. The Michaels trial, Attorney Crump is the counsel for Ahmaud Arbery's father, and so that trial is ongoing, and some hideous testimony, I may as well just update you on that, came in this week, just showing the blatant racism in that family, showing all of the pre-actions that would point to a hatred toward Black folks, which is what the burden is on the federal government. They have to prove that it was a hate crime, meaning that the intent to kill was directly tied to the race of the person, in this case, Ahmaud Arbery. And so the testimony this week went a long way toward that, because the things that were being said were shameful. I'm not even going to repeat them here. You can look that up. You can see the things, all the words. Anything you can imagine is what came out in trial this week. So that's what's going on with the McMichael's trial. And then, as you just heard Attorney Crump say, Zakai Hussein. People on the media are calling him Kai. His name is not Kai. It's Z apostrophe Kye. So it's Zakai. You know, they try to, you know how to do it, y'all. Can they bother to get it right? But so Zakai Hussein was the young and not young man, the teen boy who got in a fight with another teen boy who was bullying his friend, as teen boys do. Okay. And the bigger bullying white boy was on top of him at the time that the police officers came to break up the fight. And as Ben said, you saw, they pull the white boy off of him, sit him down, have Zakai face down on the floor in the mall in Bridgewater, New Jersey. Don't arrest him, but detain him. They take him to a holding place. He's handcuffed for more than 30 minutes. He's held while they're figuring everything out. And the white boy, the bigger, stronger, bullying white boy, was never detained, like in a holding place, and never handcuffed. So, am I supposed to make that make sense? No. There's only one way I can make it make sense, and it's the way that I said. Racial bias in policing is real. Police officers should not be able to become police officers, should not be a part of law enforcement, should not have a badge, should not be able to carry a gun before they pass racial bias and sensitivity training. And it should be screened. Not just an FBI check for the general background, but screened for real, preschool up, to figure out whether there are any latent tendencies and biases in their character that will cause them to make the type of decision that these officers made. And I don't care that it was a split-second decision. They're not going to be able to come back and say that to me. Police officers have to make split-second decisions. That's the job. Same as a judge crying on the stand. Judges have to make hard decisions. That's the job. Legal analysts, we have to say hard things people don't want to. I can't be up here crying. I feel like it. I'm frustrated by many things, but my job here is to just give you as much of the facts as I can, because I don't want us to be a runaway train where we go off wrong and mad in the wrong direction and don't take action items and action steps. I am glad that Kim Potter is going to jail. That did not have to happen. It wouldn't surprise me if the jury didn't come out the right way on this case. So I am glad that she was convicted. I am glad that she's being sentenced. It is no easy thing for a cop who has killed a black boy to go to prison. That's going to be a hard time. She ain't going to have no easy road in there. She probably, for a bit of it, will have to be in isolation, because it's a danger to her and to her safety. So yes, please keep the Wright family in prayer. This was not what they wanted today. But as Attorney Crump said, there's a civil action that is coming, and they're gonna have to pay. They've taken a child's father, they have taken parent's son, so they're gonna have to pay. And I'm running long. I need to move on. Okay. So aside from the death and the racism and the police shootings and everything that is going on with that, and guys, if you have a question, stick it in the icon. Hey there, Ed Felder, thank you. Stick it in the question mark icon, and I will try to get to it at the end. But all of this that we've just been talking about, and there's so much more. I could have named 4 more cases, 14 more cases that are right now ongoing. There are 2 cases that are going on, Pam Turner and Joshua Feast's case, where they were both killed by law enforcement in my home state of Texas. I'll be updating you at some point in the future, very soon future, about those cases. But these things are so heavy. Racism is triggering, and it is traumatic. It has been so since slavery, since we were taken into captivity, and it is so now. And we here on Make It Make Sense want everybody to keep healthy and be as healthy and cope as healthily as we possibly can. So we didn't have Wellness Wednesday this week. We had Wellness Thursday yesterday with Dr. Tama Bryant Davis. If you guys don't know who Dr. Tama is, look her up right here on this Instagram and on Twitter. And I think her website is drtama.com. But she was with us yesterday talking about how we cope with the trauma of this pandemic, how we cope. And one of her specialties, if you look her up, is dealing with racism related trauma. And after we just heard all this, y'all, Potter, Locke, Michaels, Zakai Hussein, name after name after name, hashtag after hashtag, we need to take care of ourselves. We need to cover our hearts. We need to protect our spirits. We need to love on each other. We need to care for each other. We see suicide rates climbing at younger and younger ages, not just high profile matters, but in our homes, in our lives. And she gave us tips yesterday. I have her, the full interview posted in my feed. That was just from yesterday. But the good news is she is also back on Monday. It's Dr. Tama. And I think on Instagram, it's Dr. with a period, Thema, Dr. Tama. Look her up, but she'll be back on Monday for Monday Motivation, and we're just going to continue with some steps, what we do to identify triggering effects and what treatment. Get this off my screen. I only have two more things. We are seeing increase just in Ukraine, that the Russian invasion is going to give an update today at 4 p.m. Vice President Harris is meeting with our NATO allies right now as we speak. But the invasion, as I said, unfortunately, there's about 150,000 troops or something that Russia has moved in. I want us to care about things that are beyond our immediate environment. Oh, you can't hear me? Can you hear me now? Somebody say you can hear me. Did I go out? It was because my phone was ringing. My phone was ringing. And same as when we had Attorney Crump, when the phone is ringing, it attaches somehow to my iPad. I'll give her a time, y'all. And so then the sound goes out because of that. But yes. And see, that's what I see. I don't give a damn about the Ukraine. Here's why you're wrong, bro. Because it's our troops. It's Black bodies. It's Black and brown bodies. And that if we have to actually put boots on the ground are going to be sent over there. It's our tax dollars that are spent when we are fighting battles around the world. It is our representation abroad that affects the way that human rights are around the globe. Do we care about anything beyond what is happening to us? I know we got a lot happening to us, but if we have brothers and we have sisters and they are everywhere, then injustice matters everywhere. So I'm trying to let you know what is happening and where things are going. And if you want up to date on that, President Biden is going to give an update at 4. Vice President Harris is meeting with our NATO allies right now as I speak. And we are, and see, do you see, bro? Do you see what's in my feed now? My son is in the Army. My father is a veteran, and my dad was a veteran. So anything that's happening anywhere in the world ultimately affects us. So we're going to talk about it here. We're going to talk about clean energy, right? We're going to talk about clean water. We're going to talk about what we can do to save our planet. We're going to talk about what's happening in finance throughout the world. We're going to talk about things that wealthy people talk about so we can get wealthy. We did that this week too. That was Deborah Owens. That's in my feed. She was with us on Wednesday. Wednesday. Deborah Owens was with us. So go look at that. But we're going to cover it all here because I wanted to get be well-rounded. You know, it's not going to be just death, death, death. Police, police, police. That's happening. It's important. I'm going to bring you people as close to it as possible, but we will be talking about any and everything else that matters. Not just to us as Black folks or as Americans, but to us as humans, as part of the human kind. I have so much more. There was a little thing about Loretta Lynch that was going on yesterday about the fact that she's a partner in the firm that represents the NFL. I don't have time to talk about that today. Oh, thank you for the Claire Huxtable reference. I appreciate it. And Ms. Lish is one of my favorite people in the world. But I, last night on Yodi Tuwalde's show on BNC, discussed my thoughts on the Black woman's right to have a job and do it well. And so I will post that in my feed so you can see that there because I'm completely out of time. I've been on here with you all for an hour. Thank you, Dr. Perry. Bless you. Thank you, all of you, for the encouragement. I started this. I can't believe this is the end of 2 weeks that we've been doing Make It Make Sense every weekday. So this is our 10th show already. I can't believe it. It really was just God talking to me and saying, what are you waiting for? I've been planning and still am planning something completely different that is not going to be here. But I just knew that I couldn't wait, that things are happening now, and that if I have a voice now, if I have the education now, if I have the experience now, if I have the connections now, why am I not doing what I can to share with as many people as possible? I didn't have a good answer for that. So we decided on a Friday and we started on a Monday, and we will be here every weekday at noon. If you want to support, this is free to you. It's not free to us. Got a production team, got bookers, got producers, got people who do graphics for me. We're all in, we're committed. You can support what I am doing by going to the link in my bio, and going to the link tree, and there's many ways that you can support our business PayPal, my Cash App, join on Patreon. You'll get additional information, additional interviews, all kinds of stuff. I'm Cash App MoPress, business PayPal, it's Monique Pressley Enterprises. Go to Patreon, it's patreon.com/Monique Pressley, but all of that is in my bio. And we appreciate any and all support so we can keep bringing you up to the date news. You got the breaking news. Do you guys know how many people were calling trying to get an interview with Ben Crump? But we had him. I'm proud of that. That's when you know your labor is not in vain. So yes, I am still on the ground consulting and working with lots of people on lots of different cases. And so sometimes I'm bringing personal knowledge and personal connections, but other times we're going to be reaching out and meeting people for the first time and bringing them to you. And that was Dr. Tame. I had never spoken to her before yesterday. I've admired her from afar, but had the opportunity to talk to her. And again, I want to say she's back on Monday. Come on, y'all. Let's get our mind, body, spirits right, so that we can be fit for the fight. Plenty of other exciting things happening next week. But for now, try your best to enjoy your weekend. Breathe in, breathe out, inhale, exhale, breathe through it, rinse and repeat. I love you. Big, big love. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye. Oh, wait. I'm not getting off yet. I can't break a promise. Hold on. I'm sorry. False alarm. What are the steps to present these cases singularly or collectively to world courts? The patterns and data behind these cases signal human rights violations. You're exactly right. Some of them do signal human rights violations. And when you see attorneys like Attorney Crump and people that he's associated with, there's a special arm of one of the firms that he's connected to that their only job is preparing things to report to Human Rights Council when it's appropriate and to be an emissary between us and the UN. So that is happening, but organizations that do that stuff all the time need your support. So please weigh in on those things. Let me see what else we've got. Yes, I did see the mugshot. It was terrible. I will certainly try. I would love to interview Professor Angela Davis. Yes, this is someone saying she encourages all people to get therapy. I agree. PTSD is spread thick. Yes, and complex traumatic stress disorder is that as well. Somebody raises voting. You know, we talked to Cliff Albright last week. That interview is in my feed. The co-founder and CEO for an executive director for Black Voters Matter Fund. And we talked about voting. And, you know, Yodit Twelde and I interviewed her this Tuesday. It's in my feed. We talked about how these judges, these majority white judges, are making decisions over majority Black bodies, and it shouldn't be. So local elections matter. I agree. I don't have an update on the former DA Jackie Johnson case. I can get you one, though. I'll check. Kim Potter cannot return to policing. No, she's been fired. No, the prosecution can't appeal the judge's conduct. The judge made a decision based on a ruling that her and the law clerk and whoever else had gotten together and cited law for it. Judges' judicial temperament, one way or the other, judges getting angry, judges flying off, judges being rude, judges crying, judges doing whatever, is something that, no, we do not like, and they can sometimes be reported if they do something that is harmful to or disrespectful to the members of the bar or to the courthouse staff or things like that. But no, can't do anything about that. Yes, she's a convicted felon. Kim Potter is a convicted felon. There will be no changing that. She's going to serve a sentence, and then she will live the rest of her life as a convicted felon. Okay, those were the questions. Thank you. Happy weekend.